And I appreciate you taking time to do this. Aside from having to talk to me, how is your day going so far?
So far, this is clearly the highlight.
Is it because I'm dialing in from Long Island that Long Island recognizes Long Island?
I am feeling that, yes, no
I
question
knew
about
that.
it. Yeah, no, I don't. Are you in a basement right now, or are you in a living room?
The opposite, the eighth floor of a
Okay.
building on the beach in Long Beach. Is that
Oh,
a town that
fantastic.
you'd ever been to?
Yes, when I was very, very young, but I have to say you do a good job of replicating the essence of a Long Island basement, even though you're up on the eighth floor.
Somebody's got to do it. Where did you grow up on Long Island, out of curiosity?
Um, Almost all of my uh, memories are from Plainview. I was born in a hospital in Hampstead, and I lived in Carl Place. I lived in Islip, but I was real young. So I think I was probably two or something when we moved to Plainview. So uh, up until 1970, which is when we moved to San Diego, that accounts for all my Long Island memories.
Plainview
But
has
it's
given.
funny. It's funny because I was 1 year old when I lived in Carl Place for a while, and subsequently found out years later that Steve Vai and Joe Satriani were probably a few blocks away when I was one. So it's weird the way things work out.
Yeah, between you, Vice, and Satch, Carl plays three guitars from that same town, which doesn't have much. It has a shopping mall and it has all the shopping, but it's not this like cultural epicenter where all the New York City people go, I'm going to raise my kids in Carl Place. What a strange thing there. And then Plainview, where my brother is the choral director, a lot
Really?
of people have come out of that town. Stacy Weidlitz, who wrote stuff for a lot of movies, the film director, I think his name is Mark Lawrence, like all these people from Plainview. Rod Morgenstern from Winger,
He's from Plainview?
I believe he's from Plainview.
Oh, I have no idea. That's amazing. That's cool.
Yeah, Long Island makes the world go round. But hey, we're here to talk about the Zappa Band. How long was this tour in the works for? Because I remember you'd done that NAM show where it was a Zappa tribute. You've been involved in stuff over the years, but this particular tour is new ground.
Well, this group of players that are in this Zappa band were essentially, it was slightly different, but we started playing in early 2019, I guess, which is when we did the Bizarre World of Frank Zappa tour.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, connected to all these visuals and all this technology and stuff. It was very involved and very expensive to move
Yeah.
around, but the band, just as a band, definitely, it was obvious to all of us that it had a life of its own, including Amit, who conceived of the Bizarre World tour and sort of formed us specifically for that. But then we just started booking, with Amit's blessing, we started booking shows at the Big Potato in L.A. And he came out to see that, and he said, "Oh, this is the thing all about just you guys on a stage playing these songs is a thing that deserves to thrive." So then there was a pandemic, and nobody played for a while. There still is, but now we're out of lockdown for whatever mutually shared illusory reason. We've all decided it's okay to go outside again, and we're last year the first thing that any of us did coming out of lockdown was to open for King Crimson on what turned out to be likely their last U.S. tour. So that was the first time we were actually on the road and able to kind of get a rhythm going from night to night and sort of start becoming a band, with its own identity. But we were also we were limited by the amount of time we could play every night because we were the opening act, and it had to be, if we went a second over 45 minutes, they would unceremoniously toss us off the stage. So
Right.
we had to play the same show every night in order to keep it exactly at 45 minutes. If we experimented with the set list, things could just go spinning off the axis. So this will be, in June this month, will be the first time that we're the headlining band on a tour. It's still only a 2 week tour, but that's enough time to get in some gigs, gig after gig after gig, where we're playing essentially 2 hours every night, and really, there's no substitute for that, in terms of a band becoming a band. But I gotta say, man, we've been doing some California shows over the last couple of weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
the band sounds ridiculous. I mean, we're definitely in a good stage of our evolution right now, so it's a good time to be going on the road.
a lot of people who played in Zappa's band, without naming names here, that's really the only notable credit they have. And to your credit, there's Chickenfoot. There's the stuff that you've done related to other Zappas. There's the School of Rock work you've done. You've worked steadily throughout the years. And something I was curious about was when in your career you kind of realized that Zappa was going to be a long term credit for you and that it was going to be okay that it was a long term credit for you.
Um, well, I never had any objection to the fact that when, with some exceptions, I mean, obviously, Vi has established an identity for himself, and other players that came out of Frank went on to, basically because they just had a combination of obvious talent, but also just that spark, that ineffable something that allows them to flourish. Um, and I've been doing all of my own music for a long, long time. I've put out so many albums, and I've
Dear
played with
for Dolphins,
yeah,
we are very well aware.
and I've played with a lot of different players. Like I've been working a lot with Devin Townsend lately,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in Death Clock for a while,
Yep.
so it's. And then I'll do stuff, the very pop oriented stuff with Andy Partridge or whatnot, and I think that makes it maybe a little tougher for people to get, to just like form a picture of what I'm about because I do so many different kinds of things, even in my own music. So the fact that it all started with Zappa at least is like a hook that people are able to hang me on and say, oh, he's the guy who played with Zappa and all this stuff came out of that. I'm totally okay with that, given how many amazing musicians there are in the world who, for whatever reason, never get a break, never get a call, and people just never find out about them at all. So, you know, like the majority of interviews I do, I mean, obviously the interviews I'm doing for the Zappa Band show are understandably Zappa oriented, but if I do interviews on other topics, it always comes around to Frank. I'm still in glorious grateful disbelief that I ever actually got to play with Frank at all. So I'm nothing but grateful about all of it.
Well, being associated with Frank, growing up a big Frank Zappa fan, I can kind of concisely say, okay, well, Frank's music was often hilarious, super complex, not beginner level ever at any point of his career was it stuff that beginner people can play. So people know, hey, you were in Zappa's band. That means you're amazing. And you did not say you're amazing. I'm saying that you're amazing.
Thank
Now,
you.
certain people who have that music director kind of role get pigeonholed. Like, for example, if you were Ariana Grande's music director, they would kind of go, okay, yeah, he can play pop, R&B, that kind of thing. If you wind up in one of those tribute band kind of things to this, they go, well, that's what you do. In your case, was it ever hard to get work because you were pigeonholed as, oh, that's a guy who can play a lot of notes and do jazz?
Well, I was super naive about the way the industry works right at the time that I stopped playing with Frank. There was a window there between Frank saying it was before he realized he was ill, but he knew he didn't want to tour anymore, and it was before I started working with Dweezil and Amit in their band in the early '90s.
Was
So
that Z, that
yeah,
band?
originally it
Yeah.
was just called the Dweezil Zappaband, but that morphed into Z, and that was honestly an amazing band live. It was hard for us to capture that lightning in the studio, and so the Z albums don't really give you the essence of what that group was about.
To,
But on
to, to pause you and interrupt you for a second, there's a great Z interview clip that I discovered early into the pandemic. I was watching all these European headbangers ball specials, and they had one with Vanessa, I forget her name, interviewing Dweezil and Ahmet. And you see that and you go, they could play a trillion notes, but that band could also cover songs from every genre. That was the most versatile thing imaginable that was still poppy and complex.
it was and just ridiculously energetic. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
to it was the thing where you just exhaust the audience so much that it goes through this so like a joke where you repeat it so much that it stops being funny and then it becomes funny again. We would just bludgeon people, and to the point where they were just, you could see them begin to go slack jawed and catatonic, and then we would all, band and audience, reach this shared zen state of, it was really something. It was and Amit as a stage performer is truly unique, and I and I
Yes.
and I believe that he developed some stage mannerisms that later on Jack Black would pick up on, because there's things that
100% agreed. And then Adam Devine would rip off from Jack Black. So the circle's comedy.
yeah, there you go. That's just the nature of influence that just keeps trickling down.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I got, Frank said no, no more touring, and I was like really kind of. I didn't know what to do. I was really young. All I'd done in the music business was play with Frank, and I had this idea that might, automatically lead to some further opportunities. But I think, in the early '90s, I realized, wait a second, this has absolutely no commercial cachet whatsoever. This is not going to lead me to a record deal. This is not necessarily going to lead me to, a gig with another band. And it has to do with the fact that I just, as a member of Frank's group, I didn't make the nature of the group. It was a 12-piece band. The musically, more of the focus was on the horn section, and I was playing all this ensemble stuff, but it wasn't like star making stuff I was doing. Unlike when Steve was in the band, there was a smaller band, and
Mhm.
there was just like more bandwidth for Steve to occupy, and he was just so fully formed already that anybody looking at Steve would have to say, "Holy cow, this is just like there's so much going on in one package," and that wasn't as evident with me. It's like it was a no-brainer for David Lee Roth to pick up the phone and call Steve. It would not have been a no-brainer for him to do the same for me, for a lot of reasons. I just wasn't presenting in the same way. So I had to like hang out for a while working with other people before word started to get around that I was somebody that could be of some use, and it wasn't necessarily on a commercial level. It was
Sure.
more like if somebody like Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or Brendan Small or Devin Townsend are doing music that requires a certain skill set and a certain sensibility, that I was somebody they could turn to. So I kind of made an alternative career path. And while I was doing that, and at the same time, I was also, just continuing to make all these solo albums, to the point where I have like more than 30, and
Yeah.
another one about to come out. So it's
Diversified.
yeah. Once I realized that at a young age, and got over this sort of naivete of, oh, once the world sees that I played with Frank, that they're just going to line up, and nope. I was disabused of that notion early on, and that was a good important lesson for me. And then you go where you're wanted. That's a big important thing for me. You don't try to like knock down doors necessarily where it seems clear that people have no use for what you have to offer. You go where your skills are valued and needed, and so that's what I've done.
This might be the first interview I've done in a long time where somebody said the name David Lee Roth before I did. And as somebody writing a book,
Very proud of that.
very, very, my wife would be very proud. She's like, wow, someone said it before you. And I'm slowly writing a book about Roth.
Oh,
And
I
the
didn't
more
realize
people I speak to who are guitar greats, the more I found out that they wrote a song with Dave, were asked to audition for Dave, or did audition for Dave. Like, for example, somebody was telling me that after Jason Becker got sick, Dave reached out and went, "Hey, who should I get?" And they went, "Eric Gales." And Eric Gales nearly tried out for Roth's band. He ultimately didn't do the audition. I found
that.
out that Josh Smith, who works with Andy Timmons on a lot of stuff in Bonamassa, he was asked to audition. Was there almost a, hey, Mike is going to try out for the band?
No, no, that connection was never made. So that won't even be a footnote in your book. Sorry.
All good. So, you've got this fantastic tour coming up that hits Sony Hall in New York very soon. How far ahead are things booked for the Zappa Band? Like, for example, you don't have to give me dates, but is it something that may come back in 2023?
Oh, I think definitely. Right now, it's just about scheduling because all of us have various things going on. I just started working a few months ago with this Jonathan Mover's band project, which is just all classic progressive rock from the '70s, and we toured a few weeks ago, and that was the response to that was amazing. So we're going out again like August through the end of the year. So while that's happening and while various other things are happening, trying to find time to schedule Zappa Band stuff starts to become challenging. But we all really want to do it, especially just the way we've been playing as a band the last few shows. It's like I'm hungry to do more of it. Plus, it's Frank's music. I'll always love it so much. It's always such a powerful feeling to play that stuff. So I I know that all of us in the band have the desire, and a lot is gonna ride on how well attended these shows are in June. If people come out and represent and say, yeah, we appreciate this band and want more of it, then there will be more.
So there's that. You mentioned number 30 solo album also in the can or around number 30.
Yeah, I can't
And
even. I've lost track of and then it's like some albums are like special editions and stuff. Do they count? I'm not sure exactly where the tally sits right now. I'll have to figure it out. But yeah, we're figuring out the release date for it. We're still in the process of mastering. We've done one pass at mastering it, and now we're gonna make some tweaks.
so it
Um,
sounds like you're at the point of your career where it's kind of a cottage industry where they're coming for you. They're not coming for the latest single. They're not coming for the latest music video, the latest flashy thing. It's just, oh, let's see Mike. Let's see what Mike is doing.
well, the thing that's nice, it's like me and Scott Chatfield, my friend for nearly 40 years now, run the record label that puts my albums out. So it's as far as timetables and budgets and all that, we're totally self-contained. So we don't have to answer to anybody in terms of when we put out a record, and not even obviously we want people to know about it and buy it and enjoy it, but we would probably put the album out no matter what. uh, but it's been 6 years since the last record that I put out, the last solo album. So hopefully there's a little bit of a demand built up, at least amongst the people who are already inclined to enjoy the stuff I do. Um, I get some feel for it because I have a Patreon account, and that turned out to be a blessing during lockdown, and
Mm-hmm.
has been a wonderful way to stay connected to the most hardcore of the hardcore. And I've been posting weird stuff there every month of unreleased audio and video and drawings that I did when I was 9 and all sorts of crazy stuff. So that's been intensely fun, and they're certainly amongst that contingent of people who are hardcore. There's some excitement around the new record. So hopefully, and also there's a filmmaker in Finland who's making a short film about based on 5 of the songs on the album.
Wow.
So that's going to be an interesting piece of art that we can put out there online to just to bring people more into the world of this record. So
Sure.
that'll be fun.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you before I let you go is usually what people do for a living, they usually do the exact opposite of it when they're not working. So playing such complex, multi-genre oriented music with time signatures that are rough, when you're listening to music for fun, is it the exact opposite? Do you listen to the most simplistic poppy stuff or just not at all?
Not necessarily simplistic poppy stuff, but I certainly will rock Neil Young at top volume when I'm driving, But then I'll put on Henry Cow, so it goes, it's I all I respond to in music is if I feel that there's some integrity there and there's something genuine, and a big one for me is something that I can't get anywhere else. There's like the the sound of Neil Young hitting a certain chord on that Les Paul. Nobody else makes that sound, and for whatever reason I crave that sound. So I'm that it's music that I love is never to do with its complexity level. It's just about how does this sound, and
Hmm.
how is it reaching me, you know? So that's why I can love Keith Emerson and John Fogerty, and go from one to the other without skipping a beat. So yeah.
Great answer. Well, thank you for the many years of wonderful music. Looking forward to that show at Sony Music Hall, and just keep up all the greatness there, Mike.
Oh man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks
Thanks.
for your
Have a
time.
wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
Paltrocast.